Well, guys, the Denver Broncos are headed to the playoffs after defeating the Kansas City Chiefs 38 to nothing this afternoon. The Broncos are very interesting because they're the final playoff spot. They're going up against the two-seeded Buffalo Bills in Orchard Park, of course, which is in New York. It's very, very cold there, man, Western New York. But looking at this Broncos team, they're a great matchup for the Bills because of how well this defense has been playing the entire season. But offensively, the difference between the Broncos now versus the beginning of the year is they absolutely are pouring it on. Bo Nix, 321 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's going up against second and third strings. That's fine. But Nix, to me, he doesn't get enough recognition. Everyone wants to talk about Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and Drake May. They're great young talents. But Bo Nix, he's been the most consistent quarterback from start to finish this year. And just the experience he had, you can tell right away. He just sees the game like a veteran. He's getting it done with both his arm and his legs. Nix led the team in rushing. Now, that can't happen moving forward. Your quarterback can't be leading you in rushing. You're not going to be able to win that way. But just Nix left it all on the line. He was amazing. And the Bills' defense, I don't think it's the best. It's sort of been streaky. But against teams with winning records, the Bills' defense has been very, very bad. And the Broncos have a winning record. Obviously, you have to go to the playoffs at 10-7. I do think the Broncos will be able to attack the Bills' defense. And obviously, you don't want to get into a shootout with the Buffalo Bills. That's not how the Broncos are going to want to play it. But I do expect the Broncos to control time of possession, run the ball, keep it away from Josh Allen's hands, and then when the game's on the line, even though he's a rookie, Bo Nix is going to be able to make plays. I think the Bills-Broncos game will be very close. I'm not saying Denver will win it, but I do think they'll be in it and they'll have a chance. They just can't turn the ball over. They've got to be efficient. They've got to run it, and Bo Nix is going to have to make plays. But you look at last year in the wild card, it was the Bills-Steelers. The Broncos are just significantly superior than that Steelers team, and it's because of Bo Nix. But it's just Sean Payton deserves a lot of credit. I thought he was doing a poor job of getting the ball into his Peyton's not playing quarterback anymore, but I thought he did a poor job of designing plays for Nix to get the ball into his guys' hands, and that's why you heard me say often in the videos is the Broncos need more weapons. We even talked about getting Travis Hunter and being 10-7. That's no longer going to be the case unless they trade up, which, again, you're talking about having to trade probably multiple picks to do that, and you don't trade up that far to get a corner or receiver. It's not going to happen, but Travis Hunter would be awesome, and I wish he could stay local and play for the Broncos. But, I mean, Cortland Sutton, 5 for 98 and a touchdown, gets that incentive. Marvin Mims Jr. has been amazing, 5 for 51 with 2 touchdowns. He popped off against the Bengals as well. Devon Veely, 4 for 50 and a touchdown. That was on the deflected ball, multiple deflections, and he ends up just securing it and getting his feet in bounds. Javonte Williams with 50 receiving yards, which is just so peculiar. LaJordan Humphrey, 2 for 26. See, that's kind of my thing, is no disrespect to LaJordan Humphrey, but I'd like to see more Troy Franklin. 2 for 12, 2 targets. He's got a lot of speed. The thing about Mims, though, is Peyton loves to throw screens to him and just to get him the ball out in open space, but Franklin's just more of a deep threat receiver. So I guess it kind of makes sense why Franklin doesn't play more, just because he's only running straight vertical routes. Jaleel McLaughlin, 2 for 9 receiving, also gave 39 rushing yards. I like McLaughlin a lot. I think he's the most talented back on this team. Estimi's good. I think Javonte Williams is solid, but just McLaughlin, I'd love to see him just sort of be the bell cow in the playoffs. He won't be. Nothing's going to change. The Broncos aren't just going to switch up something that drastic, but I do think McLaughlin has the talent to just be a 3-down bell cow type of guy, and I think the Broncos offense would be much better that way, even though they're using 3 backs. Of course, some other notes, we'll talk about the defense. I personally did not see the Broncos defense playing this well. Now, I knew that obviously no Kelsey and no Mahomes and no Pacheco, but 0 points. I mean, I thought the Chiefs would at least score 10, 13 points just because it's still Andy Reid, and Carson Wentz he's a pretty solid quarterback, but Wentz, 10 of 17, 98, only 27 rushing yards and 11 attempts for the Chiefs. The Broncos defensively, I don't know if there's a team right now. I think honestly, maybe the Ravens is the one team that I'd be concerned with for Denver's defensive sake. And yeah, sure, they got blown out earlier, but it's a poor matchup. But the Broncos wouldn't have to play the Ravens until the AFC Championship, of course, because it would go Bills, and then it would go Chiefs, and then it would go Ravens. Actually, hold on a second. Yeah, because that's interesting to think about. So you'd probably be looking at Chargers against the Ravens, right, in the second round. Yeah, it'd be Chargers, Ravens in the second round, and then it would be Broncos, Chiefs in the second round. Man, that's pretty cool to think about. But just the Bills, I mean, they've had a great year. Josh Allen's fantastic, but the Broncos, they're gonna come after him. And Allen, the one weakness the Bills have on offense is they don't have the best amount of playmakers, which is why Josh Allen's more than likely going to win MVP, just because he lost his two top guys in Gabe Davis and in Stephon Diggs, and then he had this type of year with that record. But the Broncos secondary is very, very good. And it's not even the best part of their defense. That would be their front. But you look at their secondary, they've got Patrick Surtain, who's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. P.J. Locke's had a great season. Riley Moss came back against the Bengals, struggled, but it's the Bengals off of an injury with a long absence. Like, I kind of expected that. Jaquan McMillan, I think, is a very, very good player. Chris Abrams-Draint is underrated. He's not a starter, but he can step in and make plays, which he did when Moss was hurt. But this front, it's a Super Bowl front, and that's what I took away when the Broncos actually lost to the Chiefs back when they played the first time, was that there's just no other front as good as the Broncos. And if you have a front that can get after the quarterback like Denver does, and then an offense, you've got a stud at quarterback, an offense that has been super efficient, that's moving the ball down the field, they've got a chance here. I think the Bills is not a bad matchup for the Broncos. I think it's actually a pretty good one. Of course, preferably, I would have liked to see Denver be the... Actually, I would not. Being real, I'd rather go to Orchard Park than Baltimore. I was going to say I'd rather see the Broncos play the Texans, but I mean, the seeding just didn't work out that way. That would have been the best case scenario. But the Bills, it's not easy. You know, the Bills are going to be favorited. But I kind of like that matchup. Just from what I've seen out of the Bills lately, they haven't played that high level of football, and they did beat the Chiefs and they did beat the Lions, the two top seeded teams in each conference. But Buffalo, I mean, you guys will see, man. If you guys haven't watched a lot of Bills games, I mean, this is going to be a close competitive game. And I think Denver can get ahead early, and they can just keep the lead because they're going to control time of possession, and they have that deep playability too. I love what I'm seeing out of Denver. This is a team that I looked at them like 3-4 weeks ago, and I said that, hey, look, they already clinched a winning record, but they've got a chance here to just continue to build upon it. And, of course, we know that the Broncos ended up losing some games, like losing to Cincinnati and losing to the Chargers. There's only 2 losses, though, but just the consistency this year has been great. I mean, the only game that the Broncos weren't in this year was the Ravens one. The Chiefs game, they should have won that. Block kick. You look at the game against the first one against the Chargers, just a bad first half, but they nearly came back. The Pittsburgh game, of course, that one, just the Bo Nix now versus then. I mean, Nix threw a pick in the red zone. The Seahawks game, and Riley Moss was like a play away from them winning that. So the Buffalo game, if I'm making a pick on it, man, I mean, I think the Broncos have the potential to upset the Bills. I really do. I don't know if they will, but I can see a world where they just control this game. And the Bills, they better come out fast, because if they don't and they let Denver get ahead and pour it on, we've seen the Broncos, score 1, 2, 3 straight times, and then their defense. Buffalo, I don't think this is a matchup that they like. Everyone was talking about Cincinnati and how, don't let the Bengals get in. I'm not saying that the Bills would rather play the Broncos than the Bengals, but just you look at the Bengals defense and how bad it is. Their offensive line is probably the worst in football. The Broncos have an elite offensive line and an elite defense. Sure, they don't have Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, but I actually think the Bengals would have been a better matchup for the Bills, just given the fact of how the Bills play. It's perfect to go up against the Bengals. But the Broncos, nobody wants to play them because nobody has a better front than the Broncos. And that's how you obviously win and lose games in the NFL. That's how you win and lose games in every level of football, is in the trenches. And the Broncos have it the best in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting, man. It's going to come down to Bo Nix, though. Bo Nix is going to have a chance to do something special. He already has. I mean, making the playoffs as a rookie is special. I mean, CJ Stroud did last year, but it just doesn't happen often. And there's 2, Jaden Daniels on the other side of the bracket too. But I'm out of here, man. I'm kind of rambling. Peace.